I'd like to open this meeting at 7:30 for the Littleton Conservation Commission. And we're going to start by approving the minutes. Anybody got any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Just one on continued public hearing, notice of intent 67. The no-mow zone has been widened to 10 feet. It said sand boulders, just a change to stone. And I had a question on the last, under the enforcement order for 1014. Was that last meeting? Or was that from a previous meeting?
I'm sorry, say again?
The last, I didn't remember that conversation from.
It wasn't the last meeting.
It was the meeting before, but it got it added into these minutes. So that discussion was from a previous meeting.
I'm sorry.
The last one, enforcement order, 10 Fort Pond.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I think that we'd already addressed.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
So those were the two
Yep.
submissions I have.
Cut and paste.
Anna, you got anything?
I thought also that in the continued public hearing, 67 Mill Road, I thought in addition to blueberries, okay, it says more plantings were added, and after discussion, blueberries were added. Maybe that covers it. I thought that, we had talked about, there was some plants left out that we had requested in the previous meeting before this one, like the shad bush, serviceberry. I think that he did not have that in the list, and so we asked him to add it again. And then we also talked about the number of them and how they should be distributed.
Right, and so I think the way that we left that is that he does have to come, they were supposed to bring back the actual plan that had those on them.
Right.
So maybe if the minutes
Reflect that.
represent that.
Okay.
But you're right, we did put some in, take some out.
Right.
But you can also write that into the notice of intent too.
Or
The,
conditions.
your
Order of
conditions.
Yep.
And just one correction, public hearing notice of intent, just an extra D in Mass DEP is there, and just a couple of other typos.
Perfect.
Any other further discussion? If not, can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll have a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Request for a certificate of compliance, Foster Street, Mass DP 204-378R 11-3. I'm not quite sure where this is.
You still don't have a DEP number on it?
No, this is,
Request for a certificate of compliance.
yeah. And this is for work that was never done. They were cleaning up their files on the Foster Street
Oh, so
project.
they never did the work.
Right, so, let me see, 378, this is all the Nordblum site. So 378 was submitted, and that had a building and a crossing, and then that never happened. And then 573 came in, which was just the crossing, and that actually happened. And then 676 or something like that came in, and nothing happened. So,
Okay.
yeah, there is a crossing out there, but they never did. So 378, the work that was proposed in 378 was never done. It was done in later filings.
Was this some of Mark Donahue's work?
I can't remember.
I remember we did
Was not done.
one that had never been done last time, too. So
There's been a
this is
series of them.
different one, okay.
Yeah.
Just catching up on
Okay.
cleaning them up, yeah.
Paperwork.
All right.
Who's
Okay.
cleaning them up?
Have a motion
Good.
to
Properties
issue a
transferring attorneys
certificate of
looking at stuff.
compliance for Foster Street. Somebody want to make that?
I'll make a motion that the commission issue a certificate of compliance for Foster Street, DEP file number 204-378.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There's something to sign.
Minor policy,
I'll send out for you to sign too.
project policy.
Did you want to push that to the end?
We can.
Or look at it now? It's been
Um,
sitting here for a while, so it's,
Healy Corner preliminary subdivision plan comments. January 10th meeting, you got something about that?
That's a January 10th planning board meeting. That is a subdivision that's been, I did send the plans around, that it's in for preliminary review. I did put in some comments. I don't know if you all had any other comments. They just need them by January 10th.
Is this for the Glavy?
This is for the Glavy, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
so,
Healy Corner is another name for the Glavy property?
exactly,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
I guess Healy
Well, I
Corners.
noticed crossings, so
Yeah.
they need to try not to do that. And
That-
there's no
that-
basis-
that was
there's
pretty
no
much-
basis for a waiver. I mean, that's my comment. There's no basis for a waiver for a crossing for new construction.
Yeah,
That's
that was
my
my comments. They have the conventional subdivision and the open space development, 16 lots in each, with crossings and basins and the 50-foot no disturb, and
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
so, and there's a riverfront area, but I think they're okay on that. So I don't know if anybody wanted to look at this, or, I mean, those are some pretty major global
Yeah.
comments that I already passed on to them.
And other updates, you and I had a discussion this morning, did that get cleared up about,
Sort of the agricultural committee working group, which I believe Jim and Andrew are on, and Anna was the alternate, and Diane Corey is just trying to clean it up, and we figured the best way to clean it up, rather than going back and trying to find the minutes when that vote was taken, is to make another vote
Oh.
to appoint Andrew and Jim as the members with,
You need a motion first.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever had to go, for some reason.
you've been lucky.
I think Andrew goes on your behalf.
All right, so I'll
That may
make
change.
Yeah, right.
make a motion to appoint Andrew and Jim with Anna as an alternate to the agricultural group working committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I
Is that-
vote even though I'm on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean we have to go down and get sworn in again?
No, for that.
I don't know.
Technically,
We did the
yeah.
last time.
I would think so.
It didn't lapse.
But we just get reappointed.
Because they never found the source.
There was some paperwork, red tape issue, so yes, more red tape.
Yeah,
I will confirm with her if she needs you to come back in.
okay. All right, we still got a few minutes. Anything else?
The Bill and Carol White over at Long Lake have expressed, this is from Don McIver, had expressed interest in replacing some of the worn-out docks there that had been historically used for fishing, so it'd be a public benefit for all.
Don't get all excited, Sarah.
Try to stay hydrated.
Wait, so
Which
they're already
docks are those?
existing and they're expanding them, or is it gonna be totally new?
Replace
I don't know, but they are willing to either assist in the project or maybe help fund some of it. They certainly aren't
Safety too.
gonna volunteer for the permitting piece of it.
Because I remember.
So, you know, my initial,
If it's just a replacement or, replacing that, it can be a safety issue, so you want
Right.
good docks, so
Right.
I think just to clarify that I'm supportive, it's just a replacement.
Would
I
you
mean,
like
'cause-
to have them come in and talk to
Yeah,
us, just so we
No, I
know?
mean, not if it's a replacement, I mean, you want it, it's safety too, so.
I'm not
it's a
opposed
safety
to
both
it,
ways. If it's a new one and the town's involved in it because they are looking for funding,
Okay.
then there's the safety issue there.
Who owns the dock?
I don't even know where they are. I don't know
Say
who
which docks are
built
they?
them.
Well, yeah,
I don't
they
know
could
if they
be-
have Chapter 91 licenses. I'm assuming nobody does.
I mean, that's all
So
town-owned
it's-
land, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
off
sounds
of
like
town on land.
discussion.
So maybe I'll meet them out there and get a better idea of what's there.
It'd be good if they came in to see what they were how they were planning to put it in, you know.
I
and-
don't think they've gotten very far with that at all.
Yeah, and,
so,
and how they're gonna
yeah.
remove the old one, where they're gonna put that stuff.
Does this have something to do with the sailing or the kayak stuff?
I,
No,
I
it's
think it's
separate.
on the other side.
It's
yeah.
separate.
And, but I remember there was a, Eagle Scout project proposed for a fishing dock. But we met him out there. The problem is that the ice
Yeah.
flow just rips up docks usually if they're out there, and they have to
They
be
should
put
come in
as-
each year.
Right.
Well, because I was wondering if that was something that the rec department could do, because they already got to pull out their own docks anyway. But, so it's a whole
Yeah.
great
Sounds
idea,
like there's more to it.
but,
Yeah,
Sounds
the
like
way
a
they put them in
discussion.
is gonna be critical, and
Yeah.
they have to be really strong.
And where you store them afterwards for the winter?
Yeah, if you wanna pull them, yeah.
yeah.
retractable docks would be best.
Hey, Carl.
Good evening.
I nominate Carl.
Second.
I'll tell you later.
You'll find out.
You
can
busy
read the
next week?
minutes.
Dock repair.
All right, I'll meet with them and see if it's gonna go anywhere.
Okay.
And, Cloverdale sidewalk, is anybody interested in doing one Wednesday at 4 to look at the potential parking lot? I picked Wednesday at 4 because I know you
Yeah.
might be able to.
I'm gonna be-
I can't pull that off.
Yeah, you're not,
No,
yeah.
I can't be there at 4.
What time of day?
I'd set it for 4 because I know you might be able to make it.
4:30 would be better, because we have our Christmas party that day.
Gets dark.
It doesn't matter, it's,
Headlights.
yeah, yeah, you don't have to,
It'll be brief, right?
it'll be
It's
brief,
just
I
that-
think.
I've already been to that location.
Have they staked it at all, so you have an idea?
No, and this is sort of to go over with them and say, yeah, we kind of want to park an area here and this, so it's just a sort of a,
Maybe, I mean, I've already done that, I've already been,
I
we
think-
already had one.
Yeah, the biggest issue is getting the grade coming up onto the road.
right.
So you're
Right.
meeting the road, it's about the same height, so you have, when you're going in and
If
out.
nobody has any strong opinions, I can just go meet with them and they'll start coming up with some sketches.
Yeah, I would think.
That's fine.
But if you're dying to be involved,
The
this can
commissioners
happen
always go
anytime.
over as well.
I mean, I would rather see stakes, because I've seen the area a lot.
It costs money to have
Yeah.
it surveyed too.
Well, just ballpark.
Not that our town engineer couldn't just put some stakes out and run a tape, but
But it's not, this is literally standing there saying, yeah, we got a parking lot here,
Oh,
or,
yeah,
that's, there's no stakes. Okay, all right.
Conceptualizing it.
but
I think I
essentially,
need to know more, I have a plan or something.
So we'll get
first.
further before
Right.
dragging
I
anybody
think
out
that's
there.
better.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that you'd probably want it, when you drove in, to go to the left on the higher ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the plan.
Up, sort of up towards the tree line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where they said they were gonna put it.
You got anything else?
That was it. How's that?
You can start.
Anybody else got anything, because we're about 4 minutes ahead of time.
Oh, one quick thing. So the Community Preservation Committee will probably be meeting sometime next month. I don't know if you guys have any ideas for future projects other than maybe a parking lot.
Yeah, right to farm signs.
Right to farm
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah, we'll mention
All right, I'll look to
Community.
see if we can
Right
cover
from
that.
community.
I don't know how many you'd need, but I mean,
that. Didn't you have
major.
something on the community gardens that was left off as well, up at,
There was supposed to have been a sign for
Supposed to be-
Newtown.
2 signs and there's only like 1 sign?
Oh, for Newtown or?
Yeah, the community garden on the, to hang on
To
the,
hang on the bottom or put something, or run it on the post coming down or something,
I'll have
Just
to
okay.
look into it.
just so people know,
I mean, we talked about it, I just guess probably
just if
never.
there's a place to put it.
No, yeah, because they talked about, because that was sort of a template, if you will, and you said in certain areas, it might be good to have a little sign underneath the main sign, pointing out a feature that's also up in the same area.
Oh, do we have any update on that, small plot of land that we did a sidewalk on, that somebody wanted to donate as part of the wetland in, at, Long Lake?
So what I'm thinking of, town council was
Oh, yeah,
saying if you wanted to take it, you might want to get a 21E,
right.
because there's stuff out
There's a
there.
lot, yeah.
Yeah, we thought was, construction debris.
Yeah, there were some barrels and stuff out there. I mean,
Vehicles,
I didn't see barrels.
saw
We didn't
vehicles.
see anything that looked hazardous, it was all construction.
There was definitely construction debris, and I thought like vehicle related,
Oh, I didn't see that.
yeah.
Hmm.
I don't
all right,
remember the
well,
barrels.
and I have not heard from them in quite a while.
I think barrels were, a different property we walked.
Yeah, I didn't see any barrels. And in fact, I thought we said so at the sidewalk that it didn't look suspicious, the
I
debris.
think I went on my own
Yeah,
Oh.
on that one. That one was you're talking about the one where it was like,
there's a wall that might be encroaching.
yeah,
also
and you
the
have to
drainage
go, and
going
if you
on.
head out or head through, from the north, you have to go down basically a dirt road that was really in disrepair. And so from that side, there was definitely some questionable, I could go and look
Hmm.
again. I've seen a lot of properties since then, but that was my recollection that
I
it was
guess,
This is
iffy.
the one that abuts other town property, the
Yes.
wetland that's
Yeah.
owned by,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one,
we
you
thought it
should've-
was valuable from a,
Yeah.
you know, wetland and stream flow
Continuity and-
standpoint.
it was that one where you could approach it a different way?
Yeah, We approached it around the other side, not from the property with the wall encroaching, but like down
Would
around the
it
other side. I
Also,
couldn't tell you what road, it was
Hmm.
like a maze getting back there, but.
Yeah,
was there
Check
some
that out.
question about where the bounds were too, up
Yes.
there? So
Yep.
you didn't
yeah,
know
definitely there was
exactly.
some private encroachment into it, yeah.
Yeah. For
So-
sure there's encroachment.
There would need to
I
be
mean,
an
I'd go look
expenditure
at
of
it
money.
again, but
It sounds like we need to know if that's still their intent, then we're gonna find some bounds first.
Okay,
Let's go ahead and open.
I guess we can move along. Public hearing, notice of intent, 93 Manawatucky Trail, U 47-25-0, Mass DEP file number 204-86XX for expansion of a deck. Somebody want to talk to that? Come on up.
Is there a DP file number now?
There is not, and I'm just checking, nothing's come in, so
Okay.
they're really backed up, I guess.
Oh,
Because this was filed quite a while ago, actually.
Yeah, it was in the summer.
It was filed in the summer and you still don't have a DEP number?
Yeah.
Was I supposed to do something?
No, you were not.
Oh.
Nope.
You're supposed to hound DEP for the number.
You want to tell us what you want to do?
Sure. So I don't know, you don't have the pictures and things that I submitted. So
Filing.
if you want to pass that along, very roughly, I'm not an artist, so I was trying to show what it would look like after it was finished. So we have a small 5-foot deck off of our back door. And off one of our back doors, we have 2 back doors. The second back door has a stone patio that the dimensions are on there, and I don't remember what they are. The problem that we have is that it's not, the area that we have to set up table and to entertain, it's very awkward because there are pillars that come down from our porch in the back. So it's very hard to set
Yeah.
tables up over
Yeah.
there.
So you can see that.
So
on-
we wanted to be able to expand the deck, that 5-foot deck, so that it runs.
Where the hostas are, or to come out where the
Where the
steps are?
hostas are.
Yep.
Yeah, to pull that out,
So just to pull this.
yeah.
So what you were trying to explain is to pull this out
That
here?
Yep, out to probably here. So if you can look at the picture, let me just see what other pictures I have, okay. So here's the deck, let me take another look at it, okay. So here's the deck here, so we'd bring it out to over here.
And you're speaking at ground level, not elevated. It would just step on, so similar to what you have there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little slanted, the grass is slanted, so it would be a little elevated as it goes down,
So
a little
this-
more elevated, but,
Be the same
Is it more
height
of like
as
a
this?
patio then?
Or the
It would be the
grade?
same height.
yeah, but the same height as the patio.
Same materials.
We'd
of
have it
construction.
contiguous with the
But it would be a
patio, so
deck, not
everything,
Stone.
the stone would stay,
patio would be.
But
the
we just
extension
add-
would
the
be
extension would be wood.
tracks or
Right,
This
whatever.
deck
Be the
is
same.
gonna come out this way.
This is within 50 feet of the lake.
Okay.
Yeah, I Googled, I actually found a bunch of redfin pictures, which were you have a beautiful property. It was, but it was, definitely, it illustrates how there's basically lawn right up to the lake. So I thought a positive attribute to the project was to put plantings instead of having your
right, the lawn would go away over there.
directly against the lake. Okay. You said the lawn would go completely away?
Where the deck is going,
Just
and,
right
and in front of it,
Right.
so there's still lawn, that goes right up to the wall, we take
Yep.
that lawn out, and as you say, just put plantings in instead.
Yeah, so I thought that was good to not mow.
Right.
We generally
less-
prefer to not mow up against.
And would the same materials as the current deck be used? Like, so would you say?
I don't think that we've
The
quite
deck.
figured that out, but we're thinking that we probably would. It's a mahogany decking, and so we think that we probably would just extend it as a mahogany decking.
So to
That
renaturalize
lasts
this.
as well as the pressure treated.
Yeah.
Just reconfirm.
No, it's flat, so there's a little space in between each
Yeah,
slats.
Consider like a lot line.
9 feet.
9 feet?
Right, cause here, like, it looked like it was a sand, like almost a
A little
beachy
sandy
area, like
beach.
little sand beachy area, and then the water. And it looked like, I'm not sure if I'm right then in the drawing, it looked like you were gonna extend the deck, and then instead of the lawn, it would be plantings instead of the
Yes.
lawn, so no more lawn at all.
No more lawn in front of the deck, where that deck is going.
In front of the deck,
Correct,
okay,
yeah.
and so the lawn would just be on the side or other
Correct.
areas that aren't
Yeah.
in the direct vicinity of it.
Yeah.
So I think it must
Okay.
take it out,
Yeah,
just because she doesn't have her dimensions.
yeah, and you haven't hired an engineer or anything, I'm assuming you're trying to see if this is possible before you,
Correct, yeah.
is there a way to stake it out so we can go look at it? We usually stake projects out and look at them on the ground. I mean,
I
even if
mean,
it's
I-
an approximation, it's a start.
Yeah, I could probably,
Yeah.
as long as the
We could-
ground's
we
not
could
frozen
do
right
it
now,
so
I don't
it looks
know.
like where we
Yeah,
think it
you
would
know.
go.
Right, right.
That's
Yeah.
what you
How
have to stake it
far
out.
from,
Or about or
Right, so that's what you have to stake that out.
Maybe
Spray
spray it,
And the
yeah, we
rest
could
would
maybe
be
spray it.
Natural area.
you know, some
That might be
some sort of
more doable.
demarcation,
That might
because
be
so
more
typically in a
doable.
situation like this, we would go, we would go and look.
well, it looks like
This
she's
is,
got 9 feet.
this would be under a
so
waiver,
whatever 9 feet
however, if you do this,
out.
so you need to do an alternatives analysis to show if there are any other options than going into the 50.
In going, I'm sorry, into
And
what?
then going into the
50
50.
foot no disturb.
The 50-foot buffer we call no disturb area.
Oh.
From the, of course, it's already a lawn.
Right.
But we still need that analysis done, just.
So some can say that the benefit might be is that you're renaturalizing the
Right.
bank.
Yeah.
So that could certainly help with that if you were to follow through and do a waiver.
But we
So,
have a bunch of
plantings
requirements
and-
like public interest and stuff too, so.
right,
Or improving the environment, basically. So with these projects, it's an environmental improvement, which is, basically
Not-
the renaturalizing the bank instead of
Mhm.
having a lawn up against the bank. That's been something that we've, done in the past.
Mm-hmm,
so I
And
think the
you've
next
got
step
4
would be
feet of
to just
bed.
go ahead and somehow mark or stake,
okay,
and then just contact Amy, and then she and a couple of the commissioners can come out and then offer feedback.
Okay.
If they thought how to go from there.
Okay.
We can get it staked immediately.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, within a general area, it can be
Sure.
a few feet here or there, but just kind of have your rough stakes of where you'd like
Yeah.
that to be.
It's gotta
Okay.
be pretty close, that's pretty close.
I'll let you keep that one.
For example, have you looked at going to the left instead of toward the?
We haven't, yeah, because that's like around the corner on the house, it's just, we haven't looked
The
at that,
left is
no.
where that little beach is,
Yeah,
If,
so
um,
kinda, there's a little,
if you face the house to the left.
right.
face the
Oh,
house
to
to the
the-
left is where that,
That's
stone
not our,
patio.
that's the stone patio, that's not our property,
That's the
I mean,
patio.
Oh.
yeah.
Maybe a plot plan would be,
So facing the house to the right is where the beach is.
a plot plan that says the number of feet from the water to your house, and then where exactly the deck would be in that area, and maybe if you look at some alternatives.
Hopefully you've got an as-built plan that's new enough that would show that.
Yeah, you can go to the building department.
Well, I can check with the building department and see what they have,
Okay,
or the Board of Health for
That's a
the
nice
septic.
kind of base for you to work off for that, because then that's to scale.
okay,
Whatever you're gonna submit would be just to scale ultimately,
okay.
so.
I got the as-built in air. Is there, in air, you go to air to get them?
That's
I
the,
think?
Board of Health has it.
And they have
in
that,
as
Might have it
built.
here.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So stake it out,
find the
and the
plan.
language you just use.
Alternatives
Who
analysis.
would do that? Because I'm not sure we
You
could.
could even do that, I mean,
Yeah,
you
no, you
could
can
just
do it.
say, okay, we
Just say
could,
we're gonna
we looked at.
renaturalize the environmental.
So maybe we could send you a link to what we're looking for in terms of what the waiver is
Okay.
and what we're asking you to do. It's kind of a step process.
Okay,
And the alternatives analysis would, give you your different options, basically. You have to look at different options and, why that's the preferred option. basically.
Okay.
Getting closer to the lake is the preferred
Yeah.
option versus, something
Yeah,
that
The only
stakes
thing we're going
farther.
the left is it would keep the deck the same width, which is what we're trying to expand
Right.
the deck that way. So going to the left, It'd be the same deck. It'd be the same issue that we have today,
Right.
only a longer one.
Just
Be
longer,
bigger.
but not wider.
Right,
Yeah.
Yep, no, I
I'm
understand.
trying to
So-
your question.
So it doesn't achieve your purpose.
right.
Right,
In that case, to the left. And then to the right is the stone patio, so you can't go there.
right.
Okay,
And you
all
have
we
your
need to do
property
is a
lines
plot
you need
plan, so we can see what you're talking about. We'll have to see, on the plan, what alternatives you've looked at, and if you could just explain that through them.
Is there a roof over this present deck now?
No.
Oh, where the pillars are? Good.
Okay. So I guess you got some homework to do.
Okay,
You can come in and talk with Amy if you have any questions.
yeah, go.
So we can continue this to January 7th? Are you,
So we won't be here?
January 28th? Or are you gone for a while now,
We'll
or?
be
No,
gone
it's
for the
okay.
winter, for the rest of the winter,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to come back when we're back. I mean, I guess we will.
Well, I would warn you that it's gonna take probably a month or more to get this done
Oh, sure.
through meetings. So you don't wanna put it off too long if you wanna get it started in the spring.
Spring, yeah.
So should I say continue it to the last date in May? We need to give a continuation date, and then if that doesn't work, we can kick it down the road from there, but,
Yeah.
We couldn't have a representative come with everything you just asked? Or could
You
we?
could.
yes,
You hire an
We
engineer
could
or
have our
contractor.
son or daughter come.
that would,
Yeah, you
yeah.
Say, here's everything
Yeah.
we think that you asked for.
Yeah.
Especially where there's no snow cover, if you wanna just go
Yeah.
ahead and
Yeah.
try
Yeah,
and throw
no, you
some
can do that.
stakes out or spray paint or something.
Yeah.
That
Well, I
would be
can,
good.
I definitely do that and then let Amy know that
Well,
we've
why don't I
done that.
continue to January 7th,
Okay.
just in case? And then if that doesn't work, we can just continue it to May or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
That
not-
sounds good.
it's not a
Good
big
luck.
deal.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Amy, this is the notice that I.
Oh, perfect.
that I
Yep.
sent.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm gonna move ahead a little bit with our 8 o'clock. We're a few minutes early. But I'd like to just kinda move along.
If you want, you can just put that on the table.
Okay.
That's fine.
This is a public hearing notice of intent, Crestview, Boxborough Road, R05-9-8, R05-2-19, R05-2-20, SDP number 2048XX, proposed shared driveway for 2 single-family homes with an intermittent stream crossing. Good luck.
I think, it seems like people are still coming in. Do we
Yeah,
want to
there
start right now? Why don't we, I was just wondering if we
You
should
can
start.
start, you can, as long as it goes past 8 o'clock, you're fine.
I thought we had to start over.
You technically have to wait until 8 on
You
the
have to
dot.
start at 8,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine.
So it's,
For
I
a
mean, it's
hearing.
just 2 minutes, so we don't have to
Yeah.
start over. It seems like people are filtering in and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, is there any chance that we can see the?
Oh,
absolutely,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, everybody can gather around and give you the presentation when,
Would this maybe be better up on an easel if there's a lot of people who want
Yeah.
to see it?
Yeah.
that's why I was saying that
Yeah,
way.
usually, we like to hog it up
So-
here, but,
I have some 11 by 17s for it.
oh, you do? Okay.
I'll pass those out.
Yeah,
And
why
for
don't
the
you give
audience.
us- No, I can do that, that's fine.
And I think you all have signed in, but if you haven't, could you just do it on your way out?
Thank you. And there was no,
There you go.
I'll get one.
You can have your own.
no, he's got 2 there.
Oh, you got 2. Oh, excellent.
This is great, they're not here for you.
Entree.
I was gonna- Oh, he's paid his dues.
You saw the Crestview?
I thought it was, but I don't see Crestview.
How are they accessing the back here?
Crestview right there, road.
Through the wetland.
Oh, through this
Crestview.
Crestview?
Yeah.
This almost?
Omar's, his frontage is down.
Okay, so that's
And this is
not
the
here.
wetland that the water's going to?
No, it's,
That one, or that one? It's coming down here. Oh, it's going that direction.
in the wetlands.
Massive amount of water.
I got a little story about that one.
Oh. So this, there's a little bit of their house, there's septic is in the buffer zone? I don't even know if it is, but the driveway is not.
No, I don't know either that or they're tearing them down.
As I remember, I'll double check it.
They gotta be accessing here, that's how they, but
This water.
It's right across the street from the island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the
So,
access
do
to
you remember?
Carl's Island, we
the
call
one
it.
that- Hey, Carl, you remember that?
Gilligan's Island.
Quonset hut that burned?
What's that?
That big Quonset hut that caught fire and burned a couple years ago?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
That's Jason. Oh, oops.
So, it borders Route 2.
But Carl, this is where all that water comes down off this hill,
Oh, this is where all the water comes from?
all the way down, kind of fractures through.
Yeah, yeah. Or-
And this
And it
is,
goes under
this is
the,
Omar's where the ponies are,
yeah.
and that, where that big pond
It,
is.
yeah, yeah, it's very wet all along the edge.
I know,
of
we
the-
still call it Omar's.
All along Newtown Road.
We all have good memories.
Until there isn't anybody alive.
Trash net?
No, I just found the floor. I'm
Oh.
not sure what order it was in.
No,
so-
probably absolutely none.
Okay.
By the end of the night, there's,
okay, I guess we can move along, it's after 8 o'clock, yep.
All right, great. My name is Neil Gorman from David E. Ross Associates, and we're the engineering and surveying firm that prepared the plans for the property owner, the Home Scout LLC. And the first page of the little packet and what I have on is the map R5, which is the Littleton Assessors Map. And highlighting in pink here the 3 parcels that were in discussion, which is parcel 9A, parcel 219, and parcel 220, that added together equal just under 12 acres of land.
And it currently vacant, there's no houses on any of
Correct.
this? Okay.
All vacant land. So the full view of the project is on this next sheet. Again, the entire property is highlighted in the solid pink with the dividing line in the dashed pink. So we're proposing to create 2 lots, single-family resident lots. One that's just over 5 acres, Lot 1, and Lot 2, which is 6.7 acres. To get yourself oriented, to the south is Route 2 and Crestview Drive here, off to the east of the property. The property has 300 feet of frontage, and like I said earlier, just under 12 acres of land total. The solid thin blue line on this sheet with the wetland symbols indicate where the wetlands are. The wetlands continue in a flow and enter into a culvert here and then into the stormwater system for the original subdivision. The subdivision had created 2 lots down on the front here. That's 19 and 20 as on that previous page. That, as you can see, much of Crestview of that area, they're all 1 acre lots, which is the zoning in that area, 1 acre and 150 feet of frontage. So those 2 lots create the 300 feet of frontage and then the remaining land in the back. The topography of the property is it's pretty flat from Crestview Road up to about this stone wall, interior stone wall, which is approximately 200 feet back from the road. And then from there, the property gets quite steep up to a more of a plateau at the top. Okay. So the project is proposing to have 2 single-family dwellings out here in this land. In order to access that, we're proposing 1 shared driveway to serve as access to those 2 new dwellings. So the driveway would be coming in off of Crestview, and at that point, we are in the 100-foot buffer zone of the wetlands. We are proposing then to cross over the narrowest point of the wetlands here. The wetlands from bank to, edge of wetland to edge of wetland is about 11 feet. The stream itself that we're crossing, the intermittent stream that we're crossing, is about 3.5 to 4 feet wide. And once we get past the stream, we're gonna then start to turn a little bit west, and we are gonna be entering into a portion of the bordering vegetated wetlands in that area. to get ourselves to a point where we can then sidestep the hill at a safe pitch for a driveway, and then switch back up to a turning around area for, and where it splits. The driveway is about 600 feet long to where it splits, 12 feet wide, with 2-foot shoulders on either side. The project proposes to have footings outside of the wetlands, so our span, or the bridge that we're proposing, the footings are outside the BVW. So the span of the bridge would be what they call a concrete open box culvert, meaning we're not proposing to disturb at all the stream bed or the wetlands. The footings would be outside of it and would just be spanning across with concrete. So concrete footings, concrete span over, to minimize the disturbance of the stream bed as we have it now. The total wetland disturbance area equals 2,300 square feet. And we are proposing in the red hatched areas, replication areas, for that disturbance equal to. The other features of the driveway is there will be some retaining walls where needed, and we can get the more of the full view on.
Sorry, can we just back up a second?
Yes.
So that replication is,
A 1-to-1 ratio.
and that is down at the entrance?
They are, so on the second page is a blown-up
Those-
version.
okay.
If you want to go to the second page, it's a blown-up version with more detail of where that crossing is.
Okay, thank you.
So we kind of rotated 90 degrees here, just so that we could get a clear view with more sideways in it now. The press view onto the right side of your page. The red hatched areas are the proposed replication areas, which are where the edge of the wetlands and going inland isn't terribly steep. In order to dig that down, easiest access is from where we're proposing the disturbance. To lower that level down, and then create wetlands where we, in the areas, because we are filling wetlands in other sections. So it's an equal swap, whatever we are filling, we are replicating.
But it's close to our house.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
next
okay.
to our
Can I
house.
ask Mr. Chairman, can I just finish my presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And once we get past the wetlands, again, this is where we're gonna be sidestepping the hill at a slope of 15% for the driveway, and then 12% on the turns, and another 15% slope up to the proposed house lot. As clearly shown on the plans, there's siltation barriers, filter socks where we're not that close to the stream, and then a combination of filter socks and silt fence where we are close to the wetlands on where the replication areas are, as well as where the crossing is. We are proposing boulder walls on both sides of the crossing in order to help minimize the amount of disturbance. The walls will be approximately 3 feet high during that crossing area. There'll be another retaining wall on the downhill side, again, in order to minimize the impact within the buffer zones.
Do you have boulder walls as in like a line of boulders, or you said boulder and then you said retaining? Could you just
Boulder
clarify?
retaining walls. They're the
Okay,
retaining
so there
walls
will
made
be
of
no-
boulders where they're stacked together at a slight angle to help support. There's a detail on one of the pages there
Okay,
that
thank you.
calls that out. We are proposing a riprap swale on the uphill side of the driveway that will then direct the, stormwater runoff towards where we're creating a wetland replication area to make sure that gets the water that it needs. There's also another swale along the property, between the driveway and the property line here of the Farrell property. Again, to keep any stormwater from going over the property line, it's gonna be maintained on the property. Out by Crestview Road, we are proposing a section for stockpiling of material and equipment. We've located that outside of the 50-foot no disturb zone, as close to the road as possible, and on the property. The other features of the design are there is a guardrail on the downhill side on the retaining wall, just because of the steepness of the driveway. It's going to be a wood timber guardrail extending from here all the way across to the stone wall on the back there. So, again, it's access in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act of trying to access upland buildable area.
Clear ice.
The Wetland Protection Act, under a limited project, allows a disturbance up to 5,000 square feet. We're at 2,300. And I know the waivers that we're seeking are to do the work within the 50-foot buffer zone. And the waivers are from the Littleton Wetlands Protection Act, or wetland regulations. And we're also applying for the waiver to have a 1-to-1 ratio in the replication area versus a 3-to-1 ratio. And our thoughts on that is these areas are already very well wooded, and to go and disturb wooded area to create wetland area at a greater amount seems like we're kind of counterproductive in that sense on this particular site, because it is all wooded along the edge of these wetlands. And we are trying to cross at the narrowest point, which is near a property line. So with that, I'll turn it over to the commission.
So Neil, a couple questions. When was this flagged and who flagged it?
It's flagged by Ross Associates, Steve Sears from our office. It was originally flagged in 2015, and then we've been back out there since Steve's been out there since my walk with Amy.
Okay. In terms of your soil testing, where you're going from a 12% to a 15 back to a 12, I'm fairly familiar with the area from my previous experience on the commission. I'm fearful of a lot of breakout water, and so want to know what you've seen in terms of some of your soils, specifically like around some of those curves, as we're kind of getting into putting that road in.
Yeah, we've done some soil testing for the sewage disposal systems up on the side slopes.
Can you tell us what that looked like? And
Yeah. If I have the septic testing results with me. But I know we have them, I just don't have them with me
yeah, I was
tonight.
just curious for
Water
soils.
table is around 3 to 3.5 feet, the estimated seasonal high water table.
Okay.
So our cuts on this driveway, we're trying to keep right around that 3 feet so we don't cut too much into it. We actually had another design in mind.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard of on that road.
which was trying to avoid the wetland here.
Yeah.
Come up through the side of it, really pinched in by the property line. But what happens, as you can see with these grading lines here, is then we're creating a 6-foot cut into the hill. It's like a tunnel. So we're avoiding that. That's why we went to the design where we entered back into the BBW.
Can you talk a little bit about elevation changes when you've got that cut where you're cutting? So like from the bottom of the entrance.
Yep. We're
Where
entering
you-
the property on an elevation, assumed elevation of 31.
Okay.
And we're at the house sites, we're at an elevation of 90.
Okay.
It's a 60-foot elevation change. And the driveway is approximately 600 feet long.
And may I ask why you chose the mitigation areas you chose? Because, I mean, the quality of a wetland right next to a road is much less. I mean, the effects of a road go about 500 feet next to it. Of course, granted, it's a driveway, so it won't have that much. But still,
You need to ice it, 'cause it's
adding a wetland further away from the
That's-
road
that's one thing
is
we're not gonna
higher
allow.
quality.
I mean, that's kind of.
This area is already heavily vegetated,
Do you want to see their waiver?
and it's fairly flat. So in order to get a wetland replication really to work is to get it at the right elevation. So digging down a shallower depth and getting the soils to then be more hydric is a lot more simple. Plus, there's an area I showed Amy, there's a lot of boulders and stuff and debris that have been thrown in there from years ago. So the goal would be to clean that out at the same time as building the replication area. So right now, that replication area is about 75 feet from the road. On this side, it's much more steep, This is an ideal location for a replication area. Given that we are filling here and replicating here, they're very close to where they are, so the elevations are very similar. It's very flat through there. But to go anywhere else on the site would be a lot more disturbance equipment-wise to get there. And we don't want to add more wetlands close to the Farrell property line.
What type of replication are you proposing?
Again, to bring it down according to, the standards that is required with Wetlands Protection Act, and then replicate with vegetation as well.
What type of wetland would you be creating?
Another vegetated wetland like we have there
We
now.
don't, well,
Is it forested now?
we don't know what kind of
Is it
vegetation.
a forested wetland now?
There's some forest there, yes.
There's a lot of forest.
It's mostly forested with shrub.
It's heavily forested.
Heavily with, what size trees?
They gotta be at least 30 years old, because it used to be a
Like
farm.
maples, like red maple or something?
Like 12,
or-
18-inch maples.
So, so basically,
And this,
so you can't, you can't replicate that. Well, let's start there.
well, not
That's
exactly. no, but,
impossible, it's impossible to replicate a mature, I would consider to be a mature forested wetland. So, that's a good starting point. And we'll have to see what else we have, but my gut reaction to the replication areas, and especially, and now you're going to one-to-one, so I need to see what the site looks like in order to even to get a good feel for that. My gut reaction is the replication site's gonna need some work.
Well, I think he kind of answered your own by proposing a one-to-one. It's, clearly it's valuable habitat already, and it's a shame to mow
Well,
down a
then-
bunch of trees
Well,
to
then maybe,
create. So I think we already.
then maybe the wetland filling shouldn't take place, if that's the
No.
case.
Well, so I guess that was one of my questions was, what other alternatives can you show on the map? What other alternatives you considered, and what basis for the waiver under our bylaws?
well, the way these properties are situated, this is the only frontage, and there's, the wetland completely bisects the access to that buildable portion of the property.
Yeah.
We are crossing at the narrowest point. I showed you one other alternative spot to get up there, but it gets too steep, and we're cutting into the groundwater table on the hillside.
Yeah, you create a spring.
Right,
And wash
which-
out your road.
Right,
I
and
mean,
we wanna
that's
stay
not a-
above that if we can, especially with frost issues. So,
The houses in the bottom.
Right.
so again, so the wetland gets wider as we get further to the north.
North.
Yeah.
So we're crossing at its narrowest point. Like I said, the wetland where we're crossing is only 11 feet from edge to edge of the wetlands. The stream itself is about 4 feet, the intermittent stream.
It's so wet.
And I will say, for what it's worth of consideration, is the Home Scout did,
I'm concerned.
the Home Scout did own another parcel adjacent to this that they built a house on,
That could have
making
been
them
access.
do an
That
entrance
could have
down
been
here.
access.
Yeah,
And now there's no access because there's a house built.
because of the house there,
on-
yeah.
Okay.
Could I ask?
Our-
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, just go through the chair.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Would you introduce yourself and then ask your question?
My name's Ed Foltz, 619 Newtown Road. And one question I have is that you are creating essentially a river of asphalt for the water on the top of the mountain right now that gets caught by the wetlands, to follow that down to Crestview. I don't see anything on here that is stopping that. Likewise, I don't see anything on here that is saying you're going to have to salt that. How are you going to keep that salt, one, from coming down to us, and two, from leaching out into the wetlands and destroying that? There's a lot of stuff here that seems to be redirecting water in one direction toward
Yeah.
us. And there are half a dozen houses down there that are already a lot of water. So, that for me is one of the biggest concerns I see here, on top of killing the beautiful forest that's in there.
Yeah, can you address the drainage? What you're
Again,
doing with the drainage?
The drainage is not going out into the road. We're steering any runoff by the pitch of the driveway to swales that are gonna be lined with a riprap to help recharge that stormwater and any runoff from the driveway before it gets into the wetland area here, before it goes into the current culvert.
You're gonna have to salt the hell
The water currently goes there now, so
You have a
we're not
question?
changing that at all.
Identify yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Donna Foltz, and I've lived in the property on Newtown Road for 54 years. I don't believe this. That I know that it's there, but the water goes straight across and underneath the house that's on stilts, that's across the street from this. And the reason why they had to put it on stilts is because this is all underwater.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't see the water.
Well, so what happens, though, is now that this is the first start for this presentation, the commissioners have to go out and verify the wetlands that they've flagged. Amy has had an opportunity to go out, but the commissioners will go out as well. So this is the start of a preliminary hearing, so that we do go out and, you know, historic does help us. So to be able to see, and honestly, we're under really good conditions because it's so wet.
right.
So that we can
But
see
that's
that.
what happened to the still house, is they built it and then it was completely underwater. And all that water has to go somewhere, and it goes right down to the front
It
of
goes
my
through
house.
that property into our front field.
Yep.
And you can see when it's wet like it is now, there's a little stream. And we've actually got two streams, one where there wasn't one in the past, and another part of our field, just because all that water's gotta go somewhere, and, you know, we're naturally at the bottom of that somewhere.
But that's what I was saying, he was saying earlier, my husband was saying earlier, that I've been here 54 years and I have not been able to ride that property. Because first off, it goes up and then it goes this way, and then up.
Ride what?
Horses.
Horses
Oh, so
through that
you're
property.
riding your horses on the
Right.
land here that he owns?
Used to be Hot Ties land, that's how
Okay.
long I've been here.
No, previously, it sounds like they said previously, not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not now.
No,
Okay. No, understood, we understand it's a steep slope, absolutely, we
Yeah,
understand
and
that.
I couldn't get there with farm animals.
You,
So Bernard Farrell, 16 Crestview Road. So we're the ones that are most immediately impacted by this. I just want to point out, when we bought our property in 1999, it had a failed septic system.
Right.
And the failed septic system, they tried to perk all along the edge of where that hill goes up. And they dug several holes and they filled with water immediately. We now have a raised septic system. That I think, this is all by way of agreeing with what Ed said. I think the runoff from this is, it will probably make our septic system fail. And I'm also really concerned about the fact that the replacement wetland will actually increase the scope of the wetland closest to our property line. Well, I appreciate what you're saying about the difficulty. If you go back to the bigger picture, you can see there's other parts of the wetland that are much further away from the road and much further away from our property, but they're at 40-foot elevation, 35 feet elevation, so I don't think you could do it there. But where you're proposing to do it is basically saying, oh, let's just move all the water a little bit closer to our house, which I don't like at all.
Sorry, where are you on that?
We're the
He's right
flooded
there.
property.
Oh, right
Thorough.
He's the
there.
closest one to the property line.
Okay.
If I may, one other question. It looks to me like you're planning to build the house actually in the buffer area, where, in the wetlands?
No,
Not
Is
in
that
the
what that
wetlands,
yellow
no.
line is here?
That is a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland that's in the rear property that
Okay.
Amy and I were looking at. I've added
That
this to
you
the
have the
sheet.
house within?
There is a 50-foot no disturb zone in Littleton. We're outside of that. We're straddling the 100-foot buffer zone with it right now.
You're actually in it? I mean,
Yeah,
you've
they
got
can
part of
build-
the house and garage.
People can build-
The septic system cannot, correct?
Is that
In the
how-
100, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, septic systems in
Oh.
Littleton can be built with as near as 50
They-
feet to wetlands,
Yeah, they can get waivers.
according to Title
He's
V.
asking about the house.
Oh, and this is.
Yeah.
And people
Not
can
new
build
ones.
within the
No.
100, it's
Not
just
new
our
ones,
jurisdiction.
50-foot
so
Septic
how.
system?
Yeah,
No,
you can't put a
septic system?
in the 50.
and
Oh, a new house. I
wasn't there
gotcha.
a
Right.
proposal, like in,
Yeah, replacement.
wasn't there a proposal to come out on Boxborough? What happened to
That
that?
I'm not familiar with. Personally, I don't know.
At my house happened.
Oh, is that
Sorry.
what
The
Amy was
yellow one
referring
left?
to?
Neil, the property marked as Boxer
Yeah.
used to be owned by
Yeah.
Home Scout.
Correct.
That's what he did. That's what it sounds like.
I have
Happened.
one more concern. We just built the house that's across the street from me. That's the last house in town. It's completely empty.
Which house are we talking
The
about?
one we walked.
Field's house.
Oh, yeah, the 628.
Your island.
628
The
in
island?
town with the bridge.
One field.
Completely underwater.
We've seen it.
Supposedly they don't, well, right.
Their house is higher, but yes, they're having.
That's not open for discussion.
Right, I'm just saying, that's where the water's going.
There's one more person.
There's a
I'd like
lot
to
of
speak
water
with.
coming
There's,
down.
okay.
Go ahead and
Please
introduce yourself,
introduce
please.
yourself.
Deeper
She's a new person.
activity in there as well.
Yes.
Yes.
We're all neighbors, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So my name is Jenny Boyer, and I'm actually, I guess, the last house that they built on 18 Boxborough. And I just have to say, we are having major drainage issues on our driveway because it was not done properly. And I have been fighting with the builder and have actually had to get lawyers. The builder came out last week, and we have a river that literally runs across our driveway.
So did they come in front
And
of us?
in addition
So
to
is
that,
their
we
house
have
on-
all of the water that comes off of
She ever come in?
Boxborough down our driveway because they didn't do a berm properly. And I talked to the builder and I said, our driveway's disintegrating. We have all of this rock from our across the street neighbor's driveway that is gravel. This is going to be gravel as well. And it comes literally down our driveway and then connects into the rivers that feed into this wetlands. And the builder has basically told me we're not fixing this. They are not responsive, they are not good to work with, and they don't, it feels like they don't care. So now we are having to head into litigation on things that are very, very obvious. Our driveway is very poor quality, like I said, it's very poor drainage, and this builder seems like he is all about saving a buck and doing it the quick and sloppy way.
Ms.
And-
Boyer, can I ask you to come up just to point to us where your home is? I recognize where your lot is, but if you can just tell us, is this your driveway?
This is our driveway right here.
And where is
Do
your
you want me,
home?
I can do it on that one too,
Sure.
if you want me to.
I might have a picture of your house. It cuts off before it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Whichever one you want.
Amy.
right here is fine. So Boxborough runs right here.
Yeah.
And the road is slanted toward our side of the hill. And we have a really long driveway too, and what they ended up doing is they curved it down and then came back up. And it seemed like the builder, when I talked to him just last week, knew also that a lot of the water came down from the hill, goes into a pipe that runs under the road, and then pops back up, and now comes down the side of my driveway, runs down that little dip that he made, which is where we're asking him to put pipe, and he's refusing, and then runs down. So now, and then with no berm at the top, we get all of the salt from Boxborough running down our now driveway, right? And we have all of the water from the upper hill now running down our driveway.
Those are dirt.
And tons of dirt. And literally, like, we have been working since March to try to get this taken care of.
This is the home
And
step. They came in.
It has been so
It was mostly the
difficult.
septic system
It
graded.
is, we've had a civil engineer come out telling us it needs to be ripped up and redone. We've had 2 other asphalt companies come and say the same thing. And all the builder is saying is we'll do 1 inch of asphalt on the top.
Okay.
So can I just make a point of order?
Sure. Yep.
That, the client that I am representing was not the builder of that particular lot.
Right.
Okay.
We're just trying to get an understanding of the hydrology.
Understood, I just
Yep,
didn't
and,
want any confusion in the
yeah, no,
audience.
and we appreciate that clarity now. Okay.
Can I just say one other thing too?
Let's go ahead, we're gonna ask some of the other, if you can introduce
John
yourself.
McClure, I'm on 10 Crestview, 2 doors down from the Farrells. I spend an awful lot of time up behind there walking around. There's a lot of, Sir Neil, I think, I have
Yeah.
a question for you. Have you ever walked up the hill where the road's gonna be yourself personally?
Yes,
Well, you have, so you understand the grade walking
Yeah.
up that hill?
Understood.
All right, because that's quite a grade.
that's why we're
Have
going
you ever been
sideways.
up there when there's been a real good rainstorm?
I have not.
The next time it rains hard around here, you need to go up there and walk around, and I think the board members should too. So the runoff water coming down that hill is unbelievable. Into my yard, and if you go into my yard and you're welcome to walk in, there's a stone wall at the bottom of my yard as well as the top of the property line. That stone wall behind it gets filled up with water 2 to 3 feet deep. And guess where a lot of that water ends up over time? Luckily, I have 2 sump pumps. The point I'm trying to make is, there's small rivers coming down both above the ground and under the ground that come right down into our yards. It's ridiculous. You have to come out and see it when there's a good rain, especially this time of year. That's all I wanted to say, thank you.
And if you add that to what she was talking about with her driveway, with the silt and stuff coming out into her driveway, now they've just made a beautiful road for all that water to come one place. You know, water is an amazing thing. It'll follow the easiest path it can find.
So it sounds like we need to
Do a site
site walk.
Well, I think there might be one more new person to.
Okay, hi, can you introduce yourself?
Jackie Farrell at 16 Whitham. So I actually wrote up my notes before I came because I wasn't sure how this was all gonna
Sure.
work. So bear with me, I just wanna make sure I don't forget anything that I wanted to point out. We've been there for 19 years. Our property borders this on, yeah. Can we put it back up? Okay. So, we share 4 of our boundary edges with the proposed development, and the driveway and the houses is intended to have serious drainage and aesthetic implications for our household. I think we've talked about that a lot. I encourage you to make note of the level when you're looking at the lines, the level of our backyard, because we are not much raised above that wetland, and the opportunity for that wetland replacement to happen in my yard is very great. Additionally, and I hate to bring this up because I'm gonna sound sappy, it has a material impact on this wetland that I honestly have grown to love. Any clearing of the land is gonna cause a runoff, unless it's deliberately diverted otherwise, and all the options for diverting it otherwise are no good, in my opinion. It's lovely, it's the way it's intended to be now. This is not a property that's been in a family and handed down generationally, where somebody wants to live on their grandmother's property. This is a piece of land that was bought on a speculative basis, on a piece of land that was never allowed to be built on before. And I would really encourage you to seriously consider just not allowing this disruption to the adjacent properties and to the wetland itself. Back to my notes. We really do not understand the drawings, particularly as it pertains to the head wall and the culvert. Today, the culvert is already half full of dirt. It functions, but it would need to be right-sized if that was done. So we would request that if you walk the property, that we actually get to walk the property with somebody who knows how to read these maps and hear the discussion as well. Because I almost don't even know what questions to ask. But I know if I don't ask them now, I'm gonna lose my opportunity potentially pretty quickly. I'd also like to take this opportunity to publicly request that our neighbors, the property owners, the people who work for them, Ross and Associates, refrain from modifying the existing stone wall that actually forms part of our property border, like legally, any further until that corner is marked. I believe that it's all been done in good faith, expecting that the part that's been muddled with is on their side of the line, and it probably is, but it's not marked, so I would just like the stone wall to stay where it is until we figure that out.
Yeah, is that stone wall, that's not on this?
There is a
It's on
stone wall.
There's a stone wall that
It's like little
runs
circles.
here,
Yep.
which is along the Farrell's property line, 61 feet from the corner.
And there's now a gap in it, that's about 10.
And there's a
12
gap
feet
right in between that point and where the wetland flag is.
Mm-hmm.
It's been broken through.
Yep.
So that wall continues on, so I guess what she's
Yeah,
asking
But the
is,
point is that where the wall is drawn as a solid line, it's no longer a solid line. There's a gap in it, I have a photo of it if you want. but it's, and we believe the gap's on the right side of the property line.
But it's really
But the
close.
trouble is, it's not like, there's a thing that says go 61 feet along this wall. It doesn't say, and look for the drill mark, or look for the metal rod, or anything like that. It's just 61 feet along this. And there's an actual little flag that says
On a
approximate
twig.
location on a twig.
Yeah, I hung that for my walk with Amy the other day.
Why did he have to take the wall down in the first place?
It's on his land.
It should be on his land. We agree that
It's
it
not a property
probably
line. At
is,
that point,
but
it's not a property line.
But we don't have a marker at that corner, so we would just ask until there's some kind of definitive marker that,
There is a marker at the corner here, there is a drill hole, so the 61 feet, but we can,
okay.
we'll address that.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you were there, you could answer it right away.
That's
That's
good.
why I want somebody to be there with us.
We hear you.
Yeah, so I think that just about covers it. Thank you.
Can I also just point out one thing? If you go to the map and you look at the bigger map, and there's a property that's the other side of all this work, is the Delala and Nisno property. So again, another reason to look at this after a lot of rainfall is the water actually runs over the edge of their property right onto Crestview Road after a big rainstorm. And I think that water is a lot of the water that's coming down from the Boyer property. That she already explained is coming down from higher up on Boxborough Road.
There's so much water coming down that
Yeah,
highway.
it will actually run out in a small river about 5 to 6 feet wide, right onto Crestview Road.
And just add one, you all set?
Yep.
Yeah.
This original development was from the 60s and it had, I mean, there is stormwater manholes and such in the roads, there's curbs on the roads, there's that significant culvert on our property, so that was part of the original subdivision, the water management of that,
I'm
so.
gonna go one step further. I had one of my associates went and checked the houses out, opened the cellar door and it was full of water. And that was over on Crestview.
I'm just wondering, is there any beaver activity or things getting blocked, other culverts getting blocked downstream that's causing the impact to so
I
many
think
of these
there's just
neighborhoods?
too much
In the moat
water.
there is,
We can't
Right.
do
in the moat is, there's beavers, there's a lot of beaver
Okay,
activity.
so,
Yeah.
we didn't put the beaver dams
No,
out
no,
there.
wait, Bill, that's
Beavers
below
are-
you. You can't use
beavers
below
are
you to
nature
make an
and-
excuse for why.
I'm
the
not
water's
making an
coming from the
excuse,
top.
I'm trying to help solve a problem that if there are beaver activities, this is a commission that would be of some help
Right.
to alleviate that,
Right,
so.
so that's
We
why
can't on
the-
private property.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about beavers
Right,
on
but
someone's
if
private
somebody
property.
else,
Right.
they know the people that are, where the beaver, so nonetheless, I'm just saying
We're gonna
there,
kill
there's
beavers
more
too.
impacts than just this driveway, there are,
It's also, you have a large hillside,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing shallow bedrock, or some confining layer, because you said even up the slope, groundwater is only 3.5 feet from the surface, and so that tells me you have a confining layer, and that is just, it's a conduit for the water. The water is, you have a large area, and the water doesn't care. Water's gonna go downhill. You cut
It
the
does now,
slope,
yeah.
you're creating a spring. It is going to go downhill, so no matter what you do on this hillside, it's going to have some impact somewhere. So even if down slope, there are impacts, we're also going into, the storm conditions we're seeing now, those are forecasted to continue. Groundwater is actually forecasted to be higher in our region due to climate change. So yes, we have a record-breaking year, but we are projected to continue with this type of pattern of climate and weather. So I think, yeah, maybe the beavers downstream is one piece of this, but it's not something that any of us have control over.
I understand.
It's
I
private
wasn't-
property, so I think from a holistic standpoint, what I'm hearing is there's kind of as expected based on what was described with site conditions, there's just a lot of water being sloughed off this hillside no matter what. And so that is a major point if this project is able to go through, is to not create worse conditions.
This has always been an issue from day one with a subdivision.
Well, and that's what you're gonna get. If you have a large hillside and you have a shallow confining layer, that's just what happens. You cut into the slope, you create a spring. That's just how it works.
Okay.
So, go ahead, one more.
I just want to say too, I would need a lot more justification under the waiver program for this development, because if you go within the 50, you have to have a public interest element to your development. I don't see anything. I see you reducing the amount of wetland mitigation. I don't see anything else you offer to the public for this development, so.
Not ignoring, I'm taking notes.
It doesn't pass the waiver.
Yeah, the waiver could,
I
we're
would-
close to it.
I think we should close this out until we have a chance for the
I would
board to
just
go
point
over
out,
and have a
one
site
more thing
inspection.
is you'll need a stormwater report. It wasn't,
Yeah, we haven't gotten
It's-
to
Can I
that.
request something, since I've been here since the sixties? That needs, this here needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
This here,
Then you're gonna get it.
because
You
I don't
can't,
think it
but you
works.
can't, you will. You can't keep
Well,
it
that
up
will be
there.
looked at as,
Like, unless you create a lake, you can't keep it
Yeah.
up there.
When you do the walkthrough,
They
I'm
can find
assuming
where the
that we can go.
Amy,
because
do you
I can
think-
go to the other
You
one.
can't do it.
Probably gotta have a site
We
inspection.
can't walk the walkthrough, what do you, I did the
Any,
moat.
any of
that
this-
that is entirely up to the owner.
To the owner, we can't give
Whether or
you
not
the
the public-
permission.
Oh, yeah, that's
The
right.
owner can give you the
Remember we-
permission.
You're right,
We had an
you're right.
in.
You're right.
We had an
Mr.
in.
Field gave us an in, that's right. So I trust that the owners would allow the.
That I don't know yet, I will check with
Down
them.
your questions for them.
Again, just so they understand what a site walk is, it's not more debate out there,
Oh,
it's
no, no,
simply
no.
just fact
I've
gathering
done
for the
it.
commission.
I've done it,
Okay, just letting everybody else know in the audience.
okay.
We've got to close this out. We've got other things
So
going on.
when is the next time we meet for
Yep.
regarding this?
So if it's continued, Amy, the next meeting is
January 7th?
January 7th.
And what will be discussed then?
Whatever they bring in for
They
input.
still have more data they have to bring in. We would do a site walk, hopefully prior to then, and talk about our findings.
And
Thank
the
you.
stormwater, I think Amy briefly touched on it, our stormwater regulations. So for 2 houses, you take a look at our
Okay.
bylaws and
Yeah, I may know that.
your stormwater calculations.
And we need more justification of the for the waiver.
I got that, yeah.
Do you want to try to set the site walk now?
Would, because there's no snow, there's no.
Now's the time.
Christmas.
There is gonna be rain, I believe, at the end of the week.
Is there?
There will be
But what's going to
another
work for you?
vote.
Do you wanna do like a,
Does the naturalist go with you when you do the site walk this time? The guy that tells you about the ferns and the.
Amy is one.
Oh, the
Yeah,
wetland.
Amy,
Yeah.
we have one,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
would a Saturday morning walk work?
That's Christmas weekend, you know.
Oh, it
We
is.
don't have- I know, but we
I
don't
don't have
have.
time. Saturday's the only day I can do it if my knees.
If your knees.
Stupid knee.
Sneaking up quickly.
I know you have other hearings, if you wanna
It
talk
is,
about
it is going
yeah.
through the woods, but it's relatively easy to get around, but it is going through the woods, so it's.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Before it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, I do request that the hearing be continued.
Yes, no, we've continued it, and we will try and figure out a site walk time, working around the holidays.
When are you
Well, does
guys gonna
Saturday
be
work?
available?
This Saturday?
That could help.
I'm available up until this
29th?
Thursday. I'm not in Friday. I am in on Monday, which is Christmas Eve, but I am out, but there are other people in our office that would cover for me if needed.
I could do early Saturday.
I can't do Christmas. I could do Saturday.
Can do
Could do
Saturday if it's
28th.
really, yeah, I can't do them. I'm gone.
Or the
29th.
Saturday after. Assuming there's no snow.
I'm not gonna be around New Year's.
We're gonna get snow.
No, actually, I would be. New Year's weekend, unfortunately.
Is it the 29th?
Can
Yeah,
you
that is
get us
the May.
permission that individually, some of the commissioners can go and walk the wetlands line?
Yes.
I'm
Like-
fine with someone.
Might be some of us have to just go and do it, because I'd rather do it when it's wet. You
Yeah.
know, even if anybody can just go and hop in and
Yeah.
figure your way
I mean,
through.
it's pretty, all the, I mean, I walked out that the flags are all there. I put some ribbons where it was crossing.
Is the center line for the driveway?
It's marked where it's crossing through the wetland, so from where it crosses here and then where it crosses the next portion, yes, there's orange ribbons. Yeah, where it's entering the road as well.
So I think what we'll do
Off of
is
Crestfield,
best for the
Yeah,
you can't
commissioners,
miss
just
it.
try and
It's right
It's
across
flagged
the
right
street.
there.
self-walk.
That works.
Self-walk.
Okay.
Amy, you okay with that?
As long as I have to go with each one of you.
We're just gonna call you from the site each time.
I'm lost.
Right, yeah.
That's too bad.
Or Crestview.
And the boots came off.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
In case you got lost.
Well, it's a hill, you just walk down the hill.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's fairly easy, once you find the place to park, to walk in. The flags are still up there. The flags will mark where the crossings are.
He said he was gonna let you know if the owners say it's okay.
Have a great night.
Well, it sounds like we're not gonna have a
So
full
what,
site.
so we're not gonna do, what we're gonna do because of the holiday, everyone's just gonna try and pop out individually.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everyone's kinda got a plan right now too, right?
Yes.
This is perfect.
yeah, no,
Everybody
these
did
are,
that?
Okay,
I know, seriously.
we got a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 67 Mill Road.
That's just in-house order of conditions. The Amy
Yeah,
sent,
the
Amy sent those
stormwater.
around.
Guess we're really lucky.
A ton of water coming
Go outside, they'll remember.
Yeah, pretty warm. Lots of people.
Tomorrow morning.
Well, I'm glad they all left.
Come on, Ted.
Yeah.
If anybody does wanna go out with me and try to set something up, let me know. Okay. I'll do one.
All right, so again, Ted Doucette, Jim McLaughlin, the applicant, and Jane Simmons, the owner. At the last meeting, there were 4 items that needed to be cleared up, and there was a talk that if we got them all cleared up and submitted soon enough, that we wouldn't have the hearing. We were going to show up anyway, but just to review some of those things was shifting the driveway entrance closer to the structure rather than splitting, making it 4 feet wider in both directions. We made it just on the house, wider on the house side. The
2
plan,
feet wider in each direction?
it was 2 feet, and then we
Right.
moved it
Oh, and then
4 on the one side,
You
yeah.
said 4 feet on each side.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You
okay.
go 4 to the right to the
Quick.
lake and then it goes 2.
We,
Yeah, that's what my
was,
understanding
okay,
was.
whatever, we
One
moved
side
2
was-
feet, yeah, yeah, okay,
Change it to.
yeah.
What's
All
it
right.
shown on the plan?
2 feet closer to the structure, because that's what we had.
On
I had
each
moved it
side.
2. I don't have, the
Originally, you wanted to go 4 on the left.
on to the right,
4 on the right.
to the right, and
Right,
then
and
move
then
2
we
feet
split
to
it,
the
so
other, yeah,
we didn't want to go 4 over, so we split the difference.
2,
And went 2 and 2.
yeah.
But what does it show on the plan?
I believe that's what it shows on the plan, because that's what I did that night, and I'd spent some.
Permit?
I mean, I didn't make it 4 feet closer to the only thing I would have done wrong is move 4 feet closer. I don't have a scale, and I don't have the previous plan, but I did go through it and make sure, I mean, this was something that I looked, because I actually, I had a plan drop out, I lost a plan, and I had to go back and do it. So this here is, this side is closer this way, and this side is closer this way. And so it's further from the pond, and the boulders are moved accordingly. So the driveway was taken care of. There were drainage calculations that were handed in that night. They're right here, showing that the pond, that the, where's my notes now? Showing that the structure can handle a 2-inch storm, a 2-year storm, and then since then, well, actually, let me stick to what we handed in that night. Where did my notes go? Jesus Christ.
Oh, you were just reading off of?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Isn't that right there?
This, that's the agenda. Let me just do my notes. There, we got them. We added a note to find the well. This was the first revision at that point, right after the meeting, and then I sent the volume calculations in there for the, and the planting plan changed. So we added 5 river birch, 5 serviceberry, 5 blueberry were added, and then we reduced the New Jersey tea down from 10 to 5. So that was the other change at that, right after the meeting.
Right.
And that's on the plan?
Yes.
Do you want to look at that?
Yeah,
Or-
planting plan. Oh, so.
That's,
So, and if you don't mind if I continue, we can
Sure, that's fine.
go through this. So, Since then, there were a couple things that came to light. At one point, Amy had mentioned that get a wetland botanist out there just to see if there were any BVW out there, and she did go out there and set 12 flags. The lines are shown on there. It runs very close to the bank. There's one place where it varies by about 5 feet, but other than that, it runs very close to the top of the bank. The Board of Health actually did come back with some plans since the last meeting. There was one change that needed to move the septic system a little bit closer. It had to move about 3 feet closer to the resource areas, but it's still outside of the 50. It's probably 51, 52 feet at the closest point now, which is also consistent with the Board of Health regulations of being 50 feet away. And also he mentioned something about he assumed it was going to be town water, and so now the proposed water supply line is shown on the plan. And then additional drainage calculations were provided to show that the existing well, when you consider the existing the proposed dry well, can handle a 10-year, 4.5-inch storm with considering infiltration. So that's a little bit more information. And then we did find the well and found the wellhead.
Where was
And
it?
it's right behind the house. It's shown on the plans now, but
So
it's
on the
basically.
roadside?
No, behind the house on the east side. It's within what was already going to be the limit of work, so the limit of work didn't have to move for it. And it's a suction line, so
Oh.
typically those can just be pulled right out.
So you put town water in?
Yes.
Are you gonna, so no plan to, it's a suction line, which is presumably a direct conduit to the lake?
Yes.
So are you gonna abandon it?
Yes, I think what they can do is they can just, no, it's just a small line.
Pull it out, but, okay. What's
And
the
then-
diameter?
It's less than
Yeah, but
2
you
inches.
Use it to water the lawn if you wanted.
He was
Just
talking,
that
you know,
can't
I'm just worried
excavate-
about
right,
it.
So you're not gonna
Yeah.
excavate to pull it out.
Right.
You can pull it out, that's great, if not, abandon it, but
Yeah.
don't,
Grout it.
do not.
right, yeah, throw
Grout
some,
it,
yeah,
right.
put the pebbles down in it, the
Yeah,
chips.
like sandpack, bentonite chips.
Yeah, yeah,
the
bentonite
grout-
chips, yeah,
Grout it, so you don't have a direct conduit to the lake.
Yeah, right.
For,
Yeah, but typically they pull them out and then the sand
The
just
sand,
eventually
We just
yeah.
wanna be
closes.
clear that you're
We wanna
not
make sure
excavating it
it's-
out.
Okay, all right.
So if it worked, I had asked him that, about would it be usable to do irrigation? Or is it not something that,
Why not? It's there,
Sucking
it's
from the lake?
existing.
So, yeah, you're
You
It's
can suck
existing.
water from a lake.
Yeah, it is
Legal.
existing.
I don't want to prolong anything extra and more.
If you, but I mean, if you.
I'd
yeah.
check with Board of Health,
Yeah.
probably.
I don't, yeah.
It has to be a traditional bedrock well.
Yeah, I mean, you would wanna make sure nobody's.
Water the lawn.
What's that?
I don't know why you.
Yeah.
I think they wanna make sure no one's drinking out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
And then
you've
if
got
you
another
wanna-
spigot, so it's.
And if
but
you
they
don't
gotta
wanna
find a
use
new
it
suction
anymore,
pump
you
though, too.
wanna block it up.
I don't want that.
It just needed to be located on the
Yeah.
map, so.
Is it-
What's that? You gotta go crazy when you hit that.
No, it's the microphone.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're hearing it.
So,
Sorry, you were talking about stormwater calcs, that was done?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the planting plan looks fine. Still says columbine is a shrub, but
Oh, did I miss?
other than that.
Sorry.
Anybody have any other questions?
The surface of the driveway? If it's gonna be gravel or pervious, or
For right now,
how you
it's
wanna,
shown as gravel. If they were to change it, I'm sure it would have to be pervious and they'd have to come for an amendment, but right now, they just wanna
So you
go.
Has to be
Keep it as
pervious.
gravel.
Not loose
Right,
gravel,
yes.
but it's compacted like stone dust that'll take the
Perfect.
water,
Yeah,
you know,
like
not
crusher
something,
run.
because if you do something, it's just gonna move around
Yep.
everywhere.
Right. Well, and you said you're gonna snow blow and not plow too, right?
Correct.
I do, Amy, one
Right
request
into the
on the order of conditions or subject of when the new owner comes in, is that when we're placing the boulders down for the driveway, I would ask that a commissioner or you go out and you can't close that.
You can't do that.
We
You
gotta
can
keep
shut it
open, Matt.
halfway, but you can't close it.
What's that?
or
Well, you
tell
can
to
ask
take
them
it
to
down.
move.
That's the law.
Open meeting?
You know that?
Yeah, but you can't have a closed door?
No?
No,
Closed door meeting.
Really? I thought I had to hang a sign and everything.
Just for an executive session, but that's it.
Executive session, yeah. executive-
So yes, so just asking, just because there's a little, it sounds like there's a little bit of wiggle room about the driveway and the boulders, so I just want to make sure that we're very specific with where they're going. Jim's not happy.
He was moving.
Roll. Okay. So we okay? Somebody wants to make a motion to close it?
Well, yeah, we can discuss conditions later.
Yeah, so I did look at the draft conditions. It looked like it just said herbaceous and not shrub in part of the planting. So I can get that to you later.
Yeah,
but that was
okay.
one of the things that I know.
Yeah, I think the only question I had about is if you want to tag when I can sign off on the certificate of occupancy to anything, which is always a tough thing with time of year. But in terms of the plantings. That was the only other question I had.
Did you put a 3-year on the plantings for
Yes.
survival?
So how does that work? Does the order conditions stay open
Mhm.
for 3 years following it until that's done? Okay,
Has to
That
grow.
those establish
Stuff can
themselves.
Yeah.
okay.
Die,
Because like
whatnot.
30% are gonna die.
So the certificate of compliance doesn't come, request for,
You get
Would be
occupancy.
subject to.
It'll be a
Yeah.
while.
it has to be 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It might be more,
They have to grow.
depending on when you plant, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but if we plant in the spring, I mean, are you looking at anything before, like, will the construction be done before the spring? Any idea on timeline?
I'm thinking it might be, but we're gonna line up our contractors and stuff, but where the house is away from the 10-foot no-mow zone,
Yeah.
could be some things getting done.
Right.
Digging holes
Yeah,
in
no, of
trees,
course.
picking them up.
So,
Yeah.
so that's the
I'm
question,
just
if
trying
they
to-
come in
yeah,
for
that's-
the building permit, fine, but if they come in for a certificate of occupancy before the planting's done,
No, the first whole group of plantings, first years of
Yeah.
plantings has to be in.
not before the
can
certificate of
occupy?
occupancy.
Before we can occupy the house?
Put them in. He's not gonna build till spring or
We're
winter,
gonna
spring.
start right away,
Right, but a year, I mean.
weather permitting.
Put money aside then. So there's no incentive to come back and do that. So you'd have to
Wait,
bond
this-
money or put something
money in
aside.
escrow.
Well, the certificate of compliance stays, I mean, the order
Doesn't
condition
matter. He
stays
could live there
open.
forever and ever and the
We're talking
plants
about
never
the
get planted.
certificate of occupancy,
Yeah, no, I know.
when I can sign off on that.
Right, but I mean, just, all right, I was thinking the incentive was that the order conditions would still be there the whole time.
That is no.
There's no,
We
there's
just
no
closed
incentive.
some out from
Right.
like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Right.
That just never came
Right.
back.
Right, and
So
my
it's
question
not-
is not counting to the month when that clock starts ticking. I just didn't know how you did it. So if it stays open that for 3 years, whenever it starts or ends, that was my question, so that's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if the house is done,
But if the house is done and they haven't
Yeah.
even started any of the plantings, then you would have to, in good faith, put money up for a bond or something
Yeah.
that there is no incentive to do the work if you let them move in.
Can you make a condition that says it shall be, the first round of planning shall be done before the certificate of occupancy, no later than a certain date, and then fines start, or, no longer than,
Yeah,
you know?
no, we don't want,
No?
we don't want to do that.
No.
All right, just trying to find incentives, yeah.
Well, the
Don't wanna
incentive is
try-
moving
just
yeah,
wondering
in.
You
how
don't wanna
likely
try
is
and
it-
plant stuff in the
from
frozen
a
ground
timeline
either.
standpoint, how likely is it that we're gonna get to, occupancy before we would plant
May.
anyways? Like, is that, yeah, May.
Probably
so-
not.
Yeah, so you can plant in May.
Right,
April,
well,
May.
exactly, so that was
You're
not gonna
exactly
be- you're not gonna be
what I'm.
moving
trying
in
to
before
get at.
May.
Moving in before May. It'd
Right,
be-
that's what
Right.
exactly what I was
Okay.
trying to get at, because I don't
can
wanna
certainly get out and
planting
start
before
digging holes in.
prevent you from moving.
All right, and if April comes and it looks like you're gonna need a CO and you don't have your plants, you're gonna have to come back in.
Yeah, we
I think
can,
it-
yeah,
and
we can talk about it.
Throw yourself on the mercy of the court and see what.
Bring your checkbook. Okay,
All
all
right.
right, so we need a motion.
Motion to close.
I'll make a motion that the commission close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 67 Mill Road, Mass DEP file number 204-873.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
You gotta wait.
Ready?
Ready?
No, that's all we can do. We can't comment anymore,
Run.
Nathan. You guys
Right? You're gonna
talk about
miss us.
conditions. I'm coming back. I got another project. I'm looking for another nice one.
When does the 10-day appeal period start, Amy? Was that after
When
you-
I mail it.
Oh,
You've got a 10-day appeal period after the order of conditions have been made.
going to Wynford and they're going to,
St. Lucia.
St. Lucia, so the last thing on their mind is gonna be the appeal period.
Yeah,
So-
right. So who gets the original for recording? If everyone's,
The applicant, the applicant.
okay,
You wanna leave it for me?
that's
I'll
up to
talk to
you.
you. I'll see.
Okay.
I'll be coming in. Thanks for your time.
Continued public hearing, notice of intent, 20 Winchester Drive. U 15-59-0, nasty appeal file number 204-8XX. For installation of the septic system upgraded to replace a failed system.
Good evening, everyone. Chris McKenzie from Ducharme and Dillis again. If you remember, we continued for a site walk to assess the situation out here, which was conducted. In the meantime, I also got review comments back from Jim Gareffi. He insists that he wants a retaining wall on this system, so we've added that to the plan. It's going to run on the high end of the system up here, and then run down the entire length of the system along the property line there. As an added measure to prevent any runoff from going off of the property onto neighboring properties, we've also called for a 1 foot wide stone trench to run basically parallel and about a foot off the retaining wall between that and the property line. And that is pretty much all we've done from our last conversation. Oh, had to pull the poly barrier closer to the system a little bit so we could fit the retaining wall in there.
And the gradient, it's still draining towards the wetland.
Well, yeah, everything, the whole neighborhood
Everything
drains, so
drains.
that I can't make
Yep.
that change. If I did, what would happen, we'd end up with a puddle wherever I made it go to.
How about a tight tank?
Water would pound. Well, the state says you need to design a system, and if you cannot design a system that meets the Title V requirements, then you're allowed to do a tight tank. This system meets all of the requirements of Title V.
There's no waivers for,
Oh, there's a couple of them, but nothing related to the wetland.
no, to the Board of Health, so
right.
has that already been granted by the?
No,
Board of
not
Health?
yet. No, we're still in the process with them.
Yeah, I mean, that fits what we saw at the site walk. There was water, standing water, little puddles on that side.
On this neighboring property?
There's your arrow there. Oh.
The green's the wetland.
Yeah, it was on the green.
East side,
Mhm.
little puddles there, so.
Towards the red house.
The trench will address that.
Well, yeah, that's on the neighbor's property anyways, I think.
You can
it's
come up and
beyond the
look if
fence.
you guys are here for this. You can
Yeah, it
come
was
up and
hard
look.
to tell where exactly they were.
Lawrence Nelson, 22 Westchester Drive. I'm on a butter. Your wall makes sense, I understand. But I'm still concerned, like everybody else that just left the meeting before this. Any water that's gonna hit this wall, are you saying you're gonna be able to trap it within their
No.
yard?
Title V requires that when we design a system like this, that we don't create a situation where water is running. This is going to be a mounded system, so it's going to be raised up. What we can't allow is water that runs down and goes onto the neighbor's property this way or that way. So what we've done to avoid that, this was a requirement by the Board of Health, is we've now created a retaining wall here. So all of this grading now is all going to go in this direction.
Right, which is.
Towards this wetland.
Right.
All
so
right,
you're
the way
gonna-
it's already
you're gonna
naturally going.
You're gonna
Can I-
protect him.
Please let me finish. In addition,
Is that where you're going?
the area between the wall and the property line is going to have a stone drainage trench installed. So any water that comes from this property going to anybody else's property is all going to get caught by that stone trench and drained back into the ground.
What's the water table there?
Water table is very high.
Very high. We have standing water, and
Standing water all the time.
as you guys saw the other day when you were out there, and we were talking 24, 48 hours after
And
a
now we're
storm.
adding more water to the
Our-
wetlands as well.
Our soil testing showed 18 inches to the water table.
Yeah, that's about right.
Wait, how are we adding water?
Well, he just said he's diverting water straight to the wetlands.
I'm not diverting water anyway.
So
Water's
we're
going
doing
to land
a
here.
three-bedroom system instead of two.
Oh, you mean water from the septic, not, you're, I think you're talking about two
from the
different things.
system and from the wall, you're pushing more water that probably would have
That's
gone.
that's where it already goes.
Yeah, it already goes that
Yeah,
way.
that's why this wetland is here. All the water in the
That's
neighborhood
the
goes to
point.
that area.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that. I can't change where the water is gonna go without affecting every property in the neighborhood.
Yeah, in terms of
I can't do
superficial
that.
flow, it's probably the same as it was.
And remember, this is all grass, lawn, roughly. That's what it's gonna be
But
there
so you're
afterwards. We're not
guiding it
creating
on-
impervious
so
area.
You're adding stuff from the neighbors or whatever, so you're putting it in a path to
Swale.
get there.
That's my
So a
point.
swale, so you have to
Oh,
clean that before it's getting there as well.
You mean the stone trench?
Mhm.
Is it on the
So
inside or the
storm-
outside of the wall?
On the outside, between the wall and the property line.
There's already a low point there where the water goes, it looks like, already.
The low point's the wetland.
Yeah.
But I
I'm trying,
mean, It's
Point
not
Bank, 16
changing the
Westchester.
flow.
My concern now is you put a cement wall up here with a high system here already, and this builds up with water now we've added a wall.
Well, we're not going all the way across. We're ending here and we're going that way. So any water that maybe comes down from this property and is going onto our property will get caught in the trench and be drained off into the ground or around.
Yeah, there's already a shed there that prevents the
Yep.
water from flowing anyway. It's almost like a wall right there already. It really does, I did, in the sidewalk, I really didn't see that there would be any change in the flow.
No,
From where-
it should not be.
My
I think that
opinion.
when you add walls
Yeah.
and mounted systems
But
and.
there's already a shed
And the
there.
shed, well, the shed could come out, it's not permanent.
Right.
Yeah, the shed's gotta go. The shed can't
It's
go.
going
Right, you
anyway.
Yeah, it
have-
can't
I mean,
stay.
What I'm
still
saying is
the
it's
rain
not
and
changing, it's not changing the flow from the current condition,
Right.
which is a shed with a wall right there, right there.
Shed
I'm,
up on blocks.
I'm more
right there.
concerned about the groundwater quality because we're creating a larger system, and I think you said you were going for a variance to be within 6 inches of the groundwater?
No,
There's
2
already-
feet.
There's already a
2 feet?
system there.
2 feet, I believe, is what we're asking for. But that's all allowable by state code.
Instead of the 4. So the waiver is
Right.
to go from 4 to 2. Is that,
Look, see if we can find it.
Right,
here.
so, but so there's a policy, under the Wetlands Protection Act, 86-1, the Title V policy. Basically, if you are gonna go for a variance, I would want you to come back to talk to us about the conditions
We're not asking for any variance
with the
except,
Board of Health. If you are, what this policy says, if you are not doing strict Title V conformance, and I believe that means if you're asking for a variance from the Board of Health, you're not under strict Title V conformance, I would want you to come back to talk to us about what you actually got approved.
we're actually falling under the local upgrade approval process. That's what we're going under. That's what these requested approvals are, local
Yep.
upgrade approvals. For the groundwater separation, 12 inches between the inlet and outlet of the tank and groundwater, and the amount of deep holes that we dug. Those are Title V local upgrade approvals. Those are granted on a regular basis by boards of health. There's 2 local town variances, town regulation variances that apply to this system that we're asking for from the Board of Health. They apply to the wall and the poly barrier being less than 10 feet to the property line, and for the runoff, a TOA slope or something. Fill being within 10 feet of a property line. We're filling basically
Right,
within
it's a
4 feet
9,000
of property
square
line.
foot lot.
That's the variances we're asking for. Really have nothing to do with the wetland.
Well, you're discharging the groundwater, and the groundwater
Right, but
discharges
the
the
var-
so
the-
by definition.
The special approvals we're asking for don't apply to the wetland directly. The state requires a 50-foot offset from the wetland. We have 51.
And there was already a system there.
Right.
But.
Right, we're
but it's
replacing
making
a
it bigger,
failing
so it's
system.
it's new construction because it's a larger system.
No, it's a
Higher
two-bedroom house.
capacity system. It is a 2-bedroom house, but you're doing a
Three-bedroom
3-bedroom
system.
system.
Again, that's required by the
Right.
state.
I
We
yeah, I
recognize
understand that,
but we're
but
acknowledging that you're building a bigger system.
Right, but it's not considered an increase in flow. If it was considered an increase in flow at the Board of Health, I would not be allowed any of these.
okay, so you're sticking with a 2-bedroom
Local upgrade approval.
house,
Yep.
a 2-bedroom house, because
Right.
the other concern is if you put in a 3-bedroom system then you're gonna have potentially more intensive use at the house.
Let me bring
That-
your
that
attention,
becomes
let me
deed
bring,
restricted.
can I bring your attention to the calculation
But
section?
it's within the buffer. This is why we're here, because it's within,
The calculation section of our plan here shows 330 gallons per day, minimum size per 310 CMR 15203. A two-bedroom deed restriction may be required by the Board of Health. That's up to the Board of Health to ask to require that.
Which they commonly do.
They usually do.
okay. And then
So
have you
this
looked
is
at the
not an
nitrogen?
increase in any
Okay.
amount of water that was, than what was coming here for the last 50 years or whatever.
Okay. And then are you familiar with the septic systems in areas with high nitrogen loading? Is that
Yes.
something, so can you speak to that?
Right, high nitrogen section areas are designated by the state as high nitrogen areas, or areas that are,
Really dense septic systems?
no, areas where existing wells are serving properties. So if you have a well on your property and you have a septic system, you need at least an acre of land for new construction. Under an upgrade, that would not apply here. They're exempt from that regulation.
I mean, you're also outside of the 50, right? Or some grading is,
We got a little bit of grading in some of the retaining wall and a little bit of that
And it's
drainage.
discharging
It's all just right there.
within the 50.
How high is
There's
it?
no way it's not discharging within the 50.
but still there's
I don't think it's
distance
an
that's
issue.
required.
No, the leach area is not discharging within the 50-foot buffer. It's all outside the 50-foot buffer.
How high is the wall with the exposure?
The wall's gonna be about 2 feet high. It's just gonna be a tiny thing. That's why I have said all along, I don't think the wall is really a good answer to this. I think it's just a way it costs them more
Yeah, but
money.
it's gonna be what,
But
4 feet below grade?
this won't have to be, no, it'll just be one of those interlocking block walls. It'll be one block layer underneath with a,
It'll be bobbing if it's
The
4
base.
feet below.
yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that they were getting the variance, because my concern is that this is going to end up being a 3-bedroom impact. So, is there a way to send a letter to the Board of Health requesting that they do the deed restriction of a 2-bedroom? Because when this gets torn down and
My
they put something
impression,
else
you
on-
might know better than I do, Chris, is I think Littleton always,
Yeah,
I know there's
most
people come in
towns do.
all the time, say, I have
Every
a
town does.
3-bedroom septic system, how can I can't have 3 bedrooms? It's good, it's deed restricted.
it
But
isn't-
I can
it
make sure
isn't
that that's,
Presently, though.
I have no idea.
The property probably is not presently have a deed restriction,
Right,
no.
so I'm just saying that I want to make sure that that T is
It's a
crossed.
converted cottage, is what it was. It used to
Right,
be a cottage
yeah.
at one time.
But then at
Most of the
some point,
properties
someone's
are.
probably gonna tear it down and build something bigger and say, why can't I have the 3 bedrooms? And I just wanna make sure that there's that paper trail.
Just have a dormitory type house and have 6 kids.
No, I agree with what Sarah's requesting. I think it makes sense.
I just wanna make sure that that Board of Health is gonna grant those two variances, correct, that you want?
2 local variances and then 3 local upgrades.
You could also hold this until the Board of Health, we get into this a lot with the Board of Health, who goes first.
I would like the Board of Health to go next and then come back to us.
Well, if I may.
Which,
still-
because, and if, the problem is, if they issue an order of conditions now, and there's a change, you're gonna have to reopen the whole thing.
Well, we still don't have a number as far as I know.
Well, that's true, too.
No,
They
so
cashed
you
the
can't
check.
close it anyway,
Didn't
yeah.
you
They've
apply?
cashed the
'Cause
check.
people-
November-
Theirs in the summer,
November
it's-
14th.
People that were here
You don't
from
have
the
a
summer
date?
that don't have one yet.
Oh, for DEP.
Yeah, don't have a number yet.
Yes, we can't close it anyways.
I called them today.
Yeah, and
They,
I've been
they've
bugging.
cashed my check.
That's
but
a
they-
really-
But they
Of
have
course they did.
That's a
no
remarkably good sign,
record.
actually.
Yeah.
They don't know about 20 Westchester. They have nothing. They can't find anything on it, so.
least they
I
checked
left
the
off
emails.
with waiting for a call back from
Amy,
them.
when's your Board of Health meeting?
I don't know yet. Don't have it scheduled.
Continue to the 7th, and if Board of Health hasn't happened by then, kick it down the,
Well, if he hasn't even, doesn't even know what schedule he's on, so it's probably not gonna be before the 7th.
Yeah, I don't have a schedule for it yet. I just got the review from Jim.
You wanna put it towards the very end or at the very beginning?
Or
Or-
in January 28th.
Yeah. Skip?
Yeah, I don't think they're in any big hurry for this. They're probably not doing anything until spring,
So
so.
let's skip the 7th
Oh,
and go
right,
to the
yeah,
next
with the
one.
weather.
There's nobody living in it, and, yeah, It's a real estate company or something. that owns it.
Yeah, they've been trying to get rid of it for 8 years.
Yeah, the basement had like
Right,
It's a crawl space.
water.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no basement,
There
it's a
isn't
crawl
basement.
It's a crawl
Crawl
space.
space.
There's
There's
no
no crawl
no-
space, yeah.
It's always full.
That way I can also
The
confirm
minute
with
you
Jim.
lose power, the thing starts to fill.
I can confirm with Jim tomorrow that this would probably get a
They've
two-bedroom
had
deed restriction.
15
No, that, I
furnaces
mean, that
put in that
groundwater
place
is so
since I've lived
shallow.
there.
Wow.
Because the furnaces are all in the crawl space
Well, it
and,
needs to be on the roof.
well, they
Somewhere
took the
else.
tarp off the
Stilts?
roof before they tried to sell it, and so it's been 8 years without a tarp on the roof.
Oh, oh my God.
Okay, so we're gonna
Mhm.
keep
Should
this
just tear
open
it down.
for 2 more meetings.
When did we say, the 28th?
28.
28th.
28th.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Continued public hearing notice of intent, 137 Foster Street.
Well, if
U35.
you want to be nice, you can let Brian go first, because there's nobody here for 137
right.
Foster. That's just a signing.
That's if you can
Or
make
if you
it
don't,
quick.
now that I said it, you can.
Do that.
So for the record, Ryan Goodrow, Handcraft Associates.
What color, yeah.
Oh, that's a, never mind. That doesn't work.
Oh, I have 2 here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
lot,
two
yeah, it's
pages.
lot 20 and lot 21.
Here's that.
Thank you. I gave out all my copies. So essentially what we did is we tweaked the houses, not unlike the other NOI modifications that we had come in before previously. The houses got smaller, the houses got further away from the wetlands, and we've reduced the impervious area within the buffer zone tributary to wetland D on both of these lots. So I coordinated with Amy, and thought it was a good idea to put these before the commission. To kind of loop you
So
in
is
and
this
make sure
what
there's
is-
no outstanding issues.
Built or what was proposed?
Foundations are not in the ground yet. So if
So you're
you,
moving it.
yeah, we're moving. If you look at the larger rectangle, that was closer to the wetlands. And then
Which one
the
am I talking
darker,
about? Which,
This guy?
let's
Yeah.
be on the same page.
Are you on lot 21?
This one.
21 or 20?
21.
we can start with 20. So
Moving
the,
this from here to.
the yellow rectangle in the back was the original approved
Oh.
location. And the darker outline yellow that's further away is
See a
what we're
difference in these yellows?
currently
Okay, so
proposing.
you're moving it farther from the wetland.
We are pulling it out, yep.
Okay. Is it going
But
to
the
something
septic
else?
flipped, am I right? The
And
septic
this-
is,
And the septic
yeah.
went from the front yard to the backyard.
Is this a wetland line or a 50-foot?
That's a wetland line.
So
Okay.
where's the
So
septic
where's the-
now?
Yeah.
The septic is gonna be located right behind the home.
So it's really the same in terms of disturbance and,
The limit of work did not change, erosion control did not change, I mean, nothing of design element significance changed. We just kinda shifted things around. That's a 50.
But you now have your discharge from your septic system
Septic
closer.
system is the dash line right there.
Oh, it's
And
just-
it,
okay.
and it was, in the front yard right here.
Right, so it used to be outside of the 50 and now it's in the 50.
No, it's outside of the 100, that's the 100
That's
foot.
100, okay.
Yep, so, we're required by Title V to be greater than 50 feet away.
Great.
It looks like you have less impervious within the 100.
We do, on both lots.
Great.
So we,
And the septic's out of the 50.
correct. Yeah, so essentially, we shrunk the house and then we pulled it further away.
I don't see where the 50 line is.
There isn't a 50 line
Oh.
on
Thank God.
Yeah, these,
Halfway.
these order conditions were issued prior to passing of the local bylaw.
Oh, okay. So this is a minor modification you're proposing?
Yeah, we had.
That's what they're
looked
here
for
for, just to make sure it's a,
administrative, But Amy had wanted it to be presented before the commission, so I am here this evening.
all right, you wanna walk us through 20?
Essentially the same thing. So we.
I thought we were
where's
just
the
looking
sep-
at 20.
No, we just did 21.
So on
See,
20,
it's a-
I can point.
They said 20 and then they went to 21.
Yeah, so.
Great.
You weren't hearing things, because I heard the same
I'm not
thing.
seeing or hearing things, that's
Oh,
good.
20.
So on lot 20,
Mm-hmm.
is essentially the same thing. This was the original approved location. This is what we're now proposing. The original septic system was located here and is now located right here behind.
Where's your expansion system
There you go.
going?
So it's a reserve in between the active trenches. So right adjacent to it.
It was here.
Oh, they're connected.
And
Is
again,
it closer to the wildlife access corridor?
the septic system, yeah, it's
Yeah.
directly behind the house now.
Right. Like here.
And we are not proposing to grade within that access corridor. Again, the limits of grading,
You
limits
are or
of.
you aren't?
We are not. So limits of grading, limits of work have remained consistent with the approved plan.
So are there more, so when you talk about trees and things like that on the site, so where the system and associated grading was up front, does that mean more trees
No.
or anything changes in the back?
Nope, limit of work stayed the same.
Well, should I make a motion, or people want to still think
Go ahead and see if it
about
gets.
it? Make a motion. What do we want a motion?
What are the snowflakes?
To move to approve them as minor modifications. How's that?
Benchmark. So that's a survey benchmark. It just
That's
it
very
indicates.
festive.
It indicates a coniferous tree.
That's being cut down.
It's outside the limits of work, so it's remaining.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Come on, Anna.
Anna's trying.
To approve this change both for, well, I'll do one at a time, okay? For number 20, lot 20, approve the change as proposed as a minor modification.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then do we need lot 21?
Another, yes.
Okay.
And another motion to approve the changes to lot 21, also as a minor modification.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening.
You too. Holidays?
Yeah. What's
Can
the,
you give those back to Amy prior?
continued public hearing notice of intent, 137 Foster Street?
Yeah, that was one where it expired, they basically need to finish the landscaping, so they did a new notice of intent, but they didn't have the DEP file number. But we did get that one.
Okay.
Oh.
So if you're
They were just
amenable,
putting down like hydroseed.
they just need to wait
Basically,
for it to
that's all.
grow, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, that's clarifying.
So if someone wants to move to close an issue, I think that's where we are.
I guess I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for 137 Foster Street, DEP file number 204-874, and issue an order of conditions.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
There you go.
Continued public hearing notice of intent, 225 Taylor Street. I assume that's been postponed? or-
They asked for a continuance while they're working on their alternative analysis. And after the site walk, some of the stuff that came out of the site walk.
Can, as a
About what happened.
note of order, can you ask them to send their, I guess what you would say, field notes, for observations from the day, so they know what their marching orders were from that day of additional areas that need to be looked at?
Yep.
Because there were a lot.
Are you allowed to talk about that?
No, because it's not open, so.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, continued, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I did mention to Amy about pulling Paul Sweeney's original plan, just to kind of compare, if that's possible.
Yep.
So we could kind of compare, sort of an overlay type thing, because there were a lot of wetlands, like finger ones on it. Has anybody else got any more?
There you go, that's Amy's.
Oh, are we
that's
gonna
your
look at
last
the
one,
minor
Amy.
project policy? I actually read that, I was okay with it. I guess my only thought is, I trust you as the agent to go out and do it. What if we get another agent?
Well,
Can
that's.
we get like a revoke? I mean,
That's,
You can put that in.
it's a, okay.
To
I
be
mean,
To
revoked
be
at any
ca-
time?
To be case by case, based on new agent
Or we revisit it for each agent or something,
or somebody becomes incapacitated, like how do you don't always wanna just pass everything along.
Sorry, I missed what we're talking about.
Sorry.
What are we
Minor
doing?
project policy under.
Oh.
Basically, the tree
We
cutting.
discussed it last time and.
There's more copies, anybody.
So what are we allowing the agent to?
Give me one. Giving me power.
Under
Give
this
it-
circumstance, yes.
Yeah.
Simple things that sometimes need to be addressed.
Yeah.
So I can run amok.
Or like a signal hazard.
In the muck.
In
the muck.
Yeah, that was exactly.
That's what you meant, that's what you meant to say.
It's not a deed.
So you need a motion
So what,
to
this
accept
policy will be revisited?
If
How about once
if
a year?
agent becomes incapacitated or replaced. So like if you go on, no, but like if you go on, you get
It's so
hurt.
sad.
Oh no.
Amy shows up to meetings drunk from now on. We can revoke
Because the tree guys are gonna start sending me.
However, I mean, would we ever hire a coordinator that doesn't,
Yeah.
qualified to go out and look at something like that?
We have
We
before.
haven't
You never know.
I
No,
would-
you never know.
You never
I
know.
have-
No, but even this will cover even on if
Amy's
she's on
the first
vacation,
one
someone
we've
has to
had.
come in.
Right.
It doesn't automatically transfer to, because a lot of towns share agents
I mean,
as
I
well,
was
just
pretending
like they do
agent for a while. I
inspectors.
mean, you don't want me to do. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
No, absolutely
I
not.
should also say Littleton Conservation Coordinator.
Yeah, right.
Right, 'cause if someone's in here
fair point,
temporarily,
but
then they're not the conservation coordinator, they're the
Right, so
acting.
that's good to add the word Littleton.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe revisit it like every 2 years or something, or.
Yeah,
if we get
or
a
when
new agent.
personnel changes,
Yeah,
yeah, or when staff changes.
That works.
okay.
I was gonna suggest once a year and see how this goes, and if we have to make a modification to it in a year's time. I mean, we find that.
Give her more leniency.
with
Well,
that-
yeah, so I should track
Could do more.
when I use this
Yeah,
and report back.
See if it's helpful.
yeah.
She wants to
But-
sign the paycheck.
Can I have a motion to accept this from somebody?
With the addition of punctuation within
Oh, punctuation.
Wordsmither.
I'm disgustingly.
So I'll make a motion to accept the policy with the, oh, are you still working on your
Yeah,
punctuation?
just semicolons and an and between 2 and 3,
Yep,
Can make
because
it
it's
subject
and,
to.
right?
Yeah, subject to the.
yep.
Not
Subject to Anna's
or, actually
punctuation.
or.
Yep. And
Or-
as discussed, the review period,
Annual.
annual review
Annually.
period and personnel change.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to address tonight?
Anna, you wanna flip the switch as we?
Oh, wait a minute, we haven't adjourned.
What? Do that.
Like to
Motion
adjourn
to
this
adjourn?
Second.
At 9, what's it,
Oh,
27?
sorry, at
at
9:27.
9:27.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.